Hello, have you considered using a leather sewing machine? And a lot of leather workers say probably not, they're expensive, and so do probably a lot of woodworkers. What I want to do today is show you a basic leather sewing machine. And it's a kind of machine you could use to make nice tool rolls, tool covers, and things like wallets and little purses and what have you. So quite a lot of scope. But it's a cheap machine, it needn't cost you much at all. There's nothing fancy here, no walking foots, needle feeds or anything. It's a good basic old Singer sewing machine. And two particular machines come to mind, a Singer 66 and a Singer 201. Now, I've already put up films on the Singer 201. I have a 66 here. It's one of the lovely old Lotus paint jobs. And it's a good basic machine. It's nothing fancy. You can change the stitch length, but you can't make it go forwards and backwards. It's just one direction only. But it sews through quite a good range of materials. And you'll find these at yard sales, and you'll find them at boot fairs and what have you. So I thought what I'd do is show you my machine briefly, and then we'll get on and we'll actually make a little wallet to take these little templates that I've got, because I don't want to lose them or have them getting scratched and damaged. So I thought a simple little wallet, it will show you the sort of thing you can make with a machine. Here's my machine, my Singer 66, and as I say, this is the Lotus paint job. So the Singer 66s came out, I think it's about 1907, and the early ones in the UK had the Lotus paint work, and in the States they had the lovely red eye. So you may have seen them before, but I do love the look of these machines. They went on, I think it was during the 30s or so, to have the Sphinx design, picking up on the sort of Egyptology interests, and then later on they became the sort of standard Singer black machines. But I was attracted, I have to say, to this machine really because of its paintwork. I just think it's beautiful. To give you a little close-up there, the Lotus flower itself. As a machine, it's very basic. It's just got forward only, there's no reverse. You can change the stitch length with a little knob here, but that's really it. And it can sew a surprising range of materials. So it will quite happily put up with some upholstery leather. It won't go any thicker than that. But if you just want to do a tool roll, want to make a wallet, it's pretty good. And if you stick to mainly sort of flat constructed components without great sort of ridges, it will sew, that foot will go over them quite happily. Nothing fancy here, there's no needle feeds or anything, so it won't cope with demanding sewing situations. But for, you know, an awful lot of work, you can quite happily use one of these and get some really nice stitch quality results. The stitches are good. So without further ado, let's get going. These are my little templates I want to make the case for, so not particularly big. They're actually for making a wallet. And then I've got some upholstery leather, and it's just a standard kind of leather you'd get for, say, on a settee or something like that. And you can get this sort of leather just as offcuts. I mean, I've got stacks of it from a sofa factory, and I just use it for what I call rough leather jobs. You know, it's where you want just a functional tool case or something, nothing fancy. I've been doing quite a lot of cases for sharp tools, for leather courses and what have you, and it's ideal for that. Wouldn't want to use it for nice handbags or anything, but for basic stuff, it's great. So I'm going to just do some cutting out. I want a couple of ties, so I'm going to cut a couple of strips off of this, and I'm just using my normal little knife here, rotary knife. I find these very good for this sort of thing, and I'm cutting on a cutting mat, which is like a self-healing mat. Why I like these cutting mats is you can cut all over them and you don't have to worry too much about the blade getting blunted by the mat. And the ruler, you've probably seen me use before, it's a safety ruler, so it's got a rubber grip, it's very thick on this side, great for cutting, made by Linex. So the cutting mat, you can actually sort of square off your stuff. So it's got little grid lines on it, and you can just square off at a right angle and get a nice right angle shape, which is another good reason for having the cutting mat. The cutting mats, I find the cheap ones are perfectly good actually. I know there's often debate about what grade of cutting mat to go for, but I don't think personally you need to spend much on them. So I'm just giving myself a bit of seam allowance, but this is all fairly quick and ready. Line that up. I'm going to make it a generous fit because I don't want to be struggling getting components in. So that's those bits, and then square this end off. And that gives me my first bit of squared off leather. So just check my plastic bits will fit inside. So what I'm going to do is have those inside. I want a front pocket, and then the flap will fold over and tie. Simple as that. So I'll just cut out my front pocket, and this is already partially squared off, so all I've got to do with that is continue my line down. As I say, I'm not going for great precision here. It's going to be a functional tool case, and I want that to have a seam allowance, and then for the template to just sit in it. So I think probably cut it a bit shorter. That'll be away. So yeah, something like this, you really can knock it out quite quickly. Run across there. Right. Next job is I'm just going to glue this front piece onto there. I'll just do a final check on my sizing. Yeah, I'm quite happy with that. That may stick up a tiniest bit. That's not a problem. So I'm now just going to use some ordinary leather glue. So this is Fibings leather glue, this one. It's just like a PVA type glue. And I just find it helps because you can sort of hold your material in position while you're sewing, and it dries really quickly. You could use double-sided tape. Whoops, I'm splashing it all over the place now. Be just as good. This is quite quick and simple. It's quite cold in here today. I've just lit a fire, so try not to get glue like I am everywhere. Touch it down, line it up, and you can always give it another trim after you've got it lined up. Right, there we are. So that is just gluing down. And I'm just going to give that a quick trim round to re-square it as it's drying. Thought it'd probably be easier just for me just to show you as I'm going, and then you see this being done in effect as if it's live. You see me make all my mistakes while I do it. There we are, that's that. And then down here, and then I know I've got nicely evened up edges. Okay. So, whoops, the glue on the front, let's get that off. That's a good thing about the PVA, it's very forgiving actually. So that's a basic shape. I would like to have rounded corners. So again, with the cutting mat, what you can do, we're still just on camera, aren't we? I'll put it there. You can just line yourself up to a couple of grid squares. And using one of these is a bit like going around it with a saddler's knife. You can literally just do your curve, keep your thing moving and turning, and just give it a little trim. You can get a nice curved corner. Again, not perfect. I'm not trying to make a work of art here. I'm just doing a functional tool case. But you can get quite a nice quick. Looks better it's being curved, a bit softer, so that can flap over like that. So what I'm going to do next is machine up around the edges here. I'm now ready for the sewing. I'm going to, because there's no reverse on this machine, so this is the Singer 66, it doesn't have a reverse. I think actually one or two of the very late ones may have done, but I've not seen one personally. But I'm going to have to turn the material around and then sew back. But anyway, quite straightforward. I'm not going to use a guide or anything, I'm just going to get sewing. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Lift your foot, turn it round. You can, if you want to at this stage, just trim off your loose bits of thread to get them out of the way. So I'm just using little tinny snips here. These little snips I find very good. And let's get sewing round. So, not making this high precision or anything. At the end of the day, it's just a functional tool case, but I do love the sound of this machine. Coming around, corner, again you can lift your foot. What you can do, if you find that you've gone a bit off, you can just trim up once you've sewn, so don't worry too much. The other thing you can do, if you want to be a bit more precision, you can use things like magnetic guides or little screw down guides to give you like an edge guide. But I'm just doing this quickly. I'm taking a view, if I don't do this quickly, this tool won't have a cover. Do you see how the machine is quite happily just sewing through this leather? It's not a problem. It's a little bit of initial force, but it's doing it quite happily. No motor, it's lovely, it's all off-grid. I'm now going to go back over the stitches just to seal them. Gone back far too far with 10 stitches, but better to be safe than sorry. Right, trim it off. So I've got to trim off the ends of the cottons, but it's sort of there. That's given me a little leather pocket. Just do a quick sizing test. I've got rag everywhere. There we are. So those two bits go in very happily there, which is what I wanted. That can come down. I'm going to now do my tie overs. So I've just put a double glue on my little ties at each end, and I'm just sticking them into position prior to sewing them up. So I am going to be pushing my luck a bit here. I'm going to be asking the machine to go through 4 layers, which I hope it can do. I think it is a little bit testing. But what I find is best if you start the machine where the needle has like the maximum swing. So, oops. Right, the needle's in its down position. I'm going to now just go for it and hope for the best. It is doing it. Right, reverse it around. I'm just going to trim off these loose bits actually. Don't get too caught up. I lift my foot. When you go backwards, it's a good idea to keep your needle in position. So it's down, in the down position through the leather, and then it holds everything where you want it to be. Go back over that lot. This is where the machine is struggling more. So it's where you get, if you like, the limitation of this kind of machine. But I mean, in fairness, 4 layers is a bit of a challenge. There we are. Good run at it again. Needle down, turn it round, go back. And that'll be enough. Oops. So yeah, it's climbing the gradients. It really does not like that. But it's done it. Gold little machine. So that's my ties done. So all I need to do now is pop my pattern pieces in. Fold my flap over. and then tie a knot at the top to hold it all in. Voila! One little wallet to hold those pattern pieces. Very simple and quite effective. So that will keep them safe in there, keep them together, won't get lost, won't get scratched. Well, I hope that little demonstration just shows the sort of thing that you could do. So you imagine that's fairly quick and simple. You could be making little card wallets, you could be making tool holders of some sort. There are all sorts of things. I made another one earlier on actually, which is for quite a lot of patterns, where I just put a couple of ties on it. But it's very versatile, and what I'm really trying to say here is you do not need a really fancy machine if you just want to knock out a few leather accessories. Start with something like that. If you enjoy it, then fine. Move on to a walking foot compound feed, needle feed machine, and it will obviously manage things like the gradient, where I was trying to do the tie bit where it struggled a little bit because of the uphill there and 4 layers. But it's not bad. That's really the thing I'm trying to say, is if you haven't tried some leather sewing, do consider something like one of these. Anyway, hope you found that one useful, and thanks so much for watching indeed. Bye bye then.